Hello and welcome to session 44 of my Pillars of Eternity Lorethrough. We are currently in the Hearthsong district of Twin Elms and are about to go into this building which is called the Passage of the Six. I believe there's going to be some heavy story moments in here, so I waited for this. It's also daytime right now, so we can get a better look at the thatched roofs of these houses here, which are very beautiful. I really appreciate the architecture here. I think it looks great. And yeah, this is the big hearth hall in the center of Hearthsong District. It's right here. We cannot go to Old Song or Elms Reach District just yet because we have people that stop us, so we need some kind of permission. And the first place we need to go is the Passage of the Six. That is where the Anamenfatha, which are like the leaders, they are called soul. They are like, Anamenfatha means soul prince, but I forget how it was actually translated because it's not technically a soul prince, but they are leaders of this place who would be able to grant us access to other areas. So let's head in there now. The twice split arrows, the three tusk stelgar, stone bramble, fisher crane. These are all of the different tribes. This is the guided compass and the keepers of the stone.
Another Estramore. What do you want?
Sounds like the same voice actor, says Lady Webb. A middle-aged Orlan woman stands at the back of the longhouse, an expression of irritation on her narrow features. As you approach, she takes a decisive step toward you. Sagani leans in. Careful. This woman's young for an elder, and looking to prove herself, I think. I'm looking for another who passed through the city.
Few Estramoran are given the freedom of our sacred city. That you ask for this person is suspicious. There are reasons we don't let you Estramoran roam our sacred city. Reasons I am coming to understand.
Has something happened recently? More than I care to think about.
Looters have grown bolder at the sites of the builders. The people of Defiance Bay set fire to their own city. And every week, the three Tusk Stelgar bring news of more desperate settlers pushing at our borders, trying to escape their plague of Anolfane children.
So like Defiance Bay, there seem to be a lot of Deerwoodans coming here, trying to escape the Hollowborn crisis. They call it the Onolfane. Suddenly, you feel the presence of someone else in the hall. The Anamenfatha continues to glare at you, but something has stepped out of her skin. It reaches out to you.
Permitting more strangers the freedom of the city is out of the question right now. Go and be thankful that Anamenfatha Shimak doesn't sit in the Passage of the Six today. He would not be so kind as I.
Meaning he might attack us? Ferult. A vision of an Orlan man appears near Bethul. He has the same green-brown fur and hazel eyes as she does. Help me reason with them, he points behind you. Turning, you see the ghostly shapes of 5 other Anamenfatha. Another Orlan with tawny fur and a scarred face, a frowning dwarf, a black-furred Orlan, and 2 elves. You're angry about something. I hear it in your voice. What is it? Anamenfatha Bethul. Are the outrages I listed for you not enough? Trouble brews, and none of it is my choosing. So it seems like I was talking to Ferult, but I must have said it out loud. The spectral Orlan takes another step from her, setting his foot down with a slow, heavy motion. Tendrils of essence strain between them, and he grimaces and leans forward as if struggling against a gale. The angry Anamenfatha winces. War. The spectral Orlan's voice is a rasping croak. They're headed for war. Remind me of Ferult's warning. Remind them of Ferult's warning. Does Ferult's warning mean anything to you? Ferult's soul image gasps. Taut threads of essence tug at him, drawing him back into the Anamenfatha. He looks up at you again. I tried to tell them. The builders' souls have touched even the Estremoron.
You'd better explain yourself.
The two attending tribesmen look from the Anamenfatha to you, their swords ready. There are other souls in this place and in you. You must listen to them. Listen to what? Right now, my ears hear only your nonsense. The builders' souls have touched even the Estremoron.
There's no way you could have known this saying. Not unless you are a Galuth on Anams, a watcher of souls.
So she figured out who we are. Ferult tried to warn the other tribes about something. What was it?
Ferult's warning came before the Broken Stone War. Ferult, my ancestor on my mother's side, was Anamenfatha of our tribe then. When the Estremoric farmers defiled the builders' monuments, Ferult urged the other Anamenfatha to patience, but louder, angrier voices prevailed.
Was it Ferult? I was pronouncing it wrong.
Ferult believed
Yes.
that the invaders could be taught to respect the builders as we do. He also believed the builders' souls had spread to all peoples, and that we should avoid needless conflict with others. More practically, he worried that a violent response would only spur further bloodshed across the generations, and you can see where we are today.
After 2 wars with the Deerwood, his warning is more relevant than ever.
While Ferult's words were shrewd, they were ignored back then. Simply remembering his warning now will not undo the wars and the changes that the years have seen. There is blood on these stones, and that is all anyone remembers now.
An image of a polished Adra Q flashes into your mind. There's writing on the sides, but the image is too faint for you to read it. The Anamenfatha turns away from you and looks at the ground, gnawing a pointed claw. You can't change the past, but your choices now still matter. She looks at you sadly. Yes, that is the problem.
Another Estremor came through here a few days ago and, well, letting him through was a mistake. One I am eager not to repeat. The Guided Compass tribe has a reputation for being too soft with Estremoran, one that will not be improved by my failure to stop this man who has desecrated our most sacred sites.
Which means that Bethul is a member of the Guided Compass tribe, the Anamenfatha of the Guided Compass tribe. That sounds like the man I came here to stop.
I won't repeat a mistake in my haste to correct it. We bar Twin Elms from Estremoran to protect the ancient places that the builders left behind. The builders left this heritage to us to defend, but they alone had access to it. On this much, at least the 6 tribes agree.
As a reminder, the builders are the Angwithans. You again see the polished Adra cornerstone in your mind. This time the image is clearer. Each face of the stone is inscribed with a phrase you know by heart. You feel your lips form words. A gift from the builders of civilization to the guardians of their legacy. May the guardians watch the door while the builders keep the key.
These were the words given to the keepers of the stone.
Bethel stares back at you, her tiny pointed teeth visible through her gaping mouth. What do they mean? She eyes you carefully. They mean that Ferelt's words may indeed be true.
Very well. The city is yours to explore. Tell the guard at the gate that you come to see the cornerstone with the blessing of the guided compass. If the gods have truly returned one of the builders to us, find the Delimgon of Ter Evron in Elm's Reach. If the gods have sent you here with a purpose, the Delimgon will know.
I've been saying Delemgan. So yeah, it seems we recognize Theos as an Ingwithan, who has been basically that same soul that's been moving across different people for thousands of years. In the meantime, I shall be here to assist you. Let's see what she has to say about the 6 tribes. Glanfathan society is divided into tribes, which are further divided into clans. Each tribe is united by a particular history or way of life, and clans are communities of families that live together. In truth, there are more than 6 tribes, but the 6 largest have traditionally led the others, so I wonder if that's what the Fangs are then. They're a smaller tribe. Each of the 6 has a seat here in the Passage of 6 where we discuss matters of common interest. You saw, for instance, the debate that occurred before the Broken Stone War. She gives you a hesitant look. The 6 tribes are the Keepers of the Stone, Fisher Crane, 3-Tusk Stelgar, Stone Bramble, Twice-Split Arrows, and of course the Guided Compass. I read about all these, so I'm not going to read them all right now. I'd like to know more about you. I am the Anamenfatha of the Guided Compass. Like many Anamenfatha, I have leadership in my blood. While tribal authority is not strictly hereditary, we believe that strong leaders can impart a portion of their soul to their children and grandchildren, meaning that Anamenfatha may succeed from a single line of many generations. She worries a sharpened thumbclaw. Of course, with all that's happened here lately, I've wondered whether my family's line is coming to an end with me. So Twin Elms is not immune to the Hollowborn. Farewell. So I need to find the Delimgan at Ter Evron in Elm's Reach. But we have permission now to go to other districts. The dragon skull is brown with age and polished smooth. So this is an actual dragon bone right here. Very cool. Oh.
What brings you here?
This is Radai. Sensing your approach, an agitated elven hunter drops his conversation and turns to face you. What kind of courtesy have you learned in your filthy homeland? A red stripe of paint gleams, pearly with sweat from cheekbone to cheekbone. We speak of Glanfathan matters. Be gone. The huntress in the group raises her calloused hand. Still your heart, Radai. Do not forget where you stand. She parts the fine strands of golden hair that float before her face and acknowledges you with a nod. In the house of our ancestors and the 6 tribes, we commune as one people. Radai looks away and fumes in a restrained breath. The ancestors will forgive me and my brother when I clean the shame away from his name. He looks at the huntress, and from the taint that it has brought to our tribe. What happened to your brother? My brother, the hunter's heavy breathing pauses for a moment. My brother, Fjorm, is the greatest hunter of our tribe. He set out on a blood hunt but hasn't returned. And now, Arthun, that puny liar, he claims that my brother, Radai clenches his fists. The elven huntress fills in the silence. Arthun belongs to another tribe. He is the hunter that competed against Fjorm during their bloody hunt. She gives a glancing look to Radai. Arthun claims that Fjorm has exiled himself, deciding not to return to Twin Elms. Radai scowls. His stripe of face paint curves like an angry wound. Exiled in shame for losing to him during the blood hunt. Can you believe this? Liar? Even though Arthun, this is the huntress, returned with the giant Stelgar's fang as proof, it's hard to believe that Fjorm would have failed to kill the prey first. The huntress digs her heels into the dark soil. But you cannot claim that yet, Radai, not until the Anamenfatha judge the truth. Arthun's weak, from a lower tribe, Radai bares his teeth. He lies. I'll find the truth and clean my brother's name. Why would Arthun lie about your brother? Radai throws his arms in the air. Why? He looks at you as if the answer were obvious. Radai, please, still your anger. He does not know our customs. The huntress turns to you and nods. Arthun stands much to gain from claiming a victory over Fjorm. It brings renown and glory to his kin, a lesser tribe, the Twice-Split Arrows. Arthun has no... Ridai says, Arthun has no history, no name, and now he returns a hero while my brother, Ridai's face twists in ire. Tricked, perhaps worse. You mentioned a blood hunt? What is that? We prove our worth in a blood hunt. We set out to stalk and prey. Always a dangerous creature, and only one kills it first. The elven huntress interrupts with an exasperated sigh. Yes, but we hunt as pairs, to bond, as Glanfathan, as one, not as enemies. 2 hunters, 2 tribes, 1 spirit. That is our way. Ridai glowers in response. Our way isn't to lie. We don't betray our brothers and sisters for our own gain. The huntress says, The blood hunt between your brother and Arthun has broken the communion of our tribes, Ridai. Do not dig in this wound until you can claim the truth. She turns again to face you. Perhaps our customs appear strange to you, but despite what you now see, we Glanfathans hold our bonds sacred. So apparently they went on this blood hunt together, and Ridai thinks that his brother Fjorm was killed by this Arthun person, or tricked by this Arthun person. And the huntress is just begging him to make sure that we have the proof first before he starts making these claims. Tell me about your tribe. Ridai's voice swells with pride, for a moment holding his anger at bay. We're the keepers of the stone. He lets the name reverberate in the hall. We're the first tribe. Our history runs across the ages to the time of the builders. The huntress nods. We are one with the past, with our traditions and history. The best crafts and hunts come from our kin. Other tribes look up to our prowess. They're consumed by envy, Ridai frowns. That's why Arthun lies about my brother. His tribe has no history, no glory, but he claims it for the twice-split arrows while we're left to bear a false name. How do you plan to clear Fjorm's name? A bead of sweat rolls down Ridai's forehead and hangs from his red-painted cheekbone like a drop of blood. It quivers as the hunter's muscles twitch. I can't tarry here while my brother's fate remains unknown. The Anamenfatha must let me go. The huntress says, To judge Arthun, to clean our tribe's name, they cannot listen only to our truth. The huntress lowers her head, glancing at you. Before the Anamenfatha, only an impartial voice can speak for what happened. Ridai whips his neck. At the drop of sweat lingering on a cheekbone, flies in your direction. You mean to involve this one in Estramor? She points at him, her calloused finger curved like a claw. Listen to me now. Arthun returned, with proof. Your brother did not even come back. The huntress blows against the fine hairs floating down over her face. The tribes are split. Something must be done. She looks at you. And this one is known to speak the truth. So even here, we have a reputation for being honest. As an Estramor, I can look into this without risking tension between your tribes. Ridai turns to face you, his hard features betraying no emotion, and nods. You are right in claiming this. The Anamenfatha would agree to listen. There's no union between you and our tribes. The huntress nods at you. Fjorm and Arthun went to the Northweald Forest, beyond the Old Song Pass, to hunt a giant Stelgar. Search there, and return to us with the truth if you can, but be aware. Stelgar of such size, many times over the lesser kin, usually gather a big pride that follows them closely. Ridai fixes his eyes on you, 2 glowing embers over a blood-red stripe painted across his face. Estramor, I don't expect help, but I'll do anything to know of my brother's fate and to clean the stain that Arthun has spilled on our tribe. He throws his chin back. Anything. This I claim. So we got a new quest, Hunter, Brother. Oh, I don't think I've gone to this Builder's Hearth yet. Oh, yes I have, but I don't know if I realized it was actually named, so let's figure out what's going on here. Pedestal creeps around the dais. Yeah, I remember reading that. And this is called the Builder's Hearth. Builders, again, being a Gwithin. So let's go to the Old Song District first. Forgot to unpause it. The Protector sees us. Do not try my patience, Estramor. I should not pass without the permission of the Anamenfatha. I come to see the cornerstone with the blessing of the guided compass. The guard scowls and looks at his companion, who nods back. He turns to you again, his knuckles whitening around the shaft of his spear. Always too cozy with the Estramoran. Go then, and mind your step around the sacred stones. I don't know what's going on down here. Let's go to Elm's Reach first. Alright, let's take a look at this place. Elm's Reach. We have these beautiful rays of light coming down through the trees. Over here we have Glanfathan Home. Path to the Old Song District. Another Glanfathan Home. This area here is called the Hall of Warriors, behind the spiked fence. We have the Blood Sands. This just says the Twin Elms, so this must actually be the Twin Elms right over here. And this is Ter Evren, where we need to go to speak to the Delum Gan. Another Glanfathan Home, and this is the Golden Grove. So let's go around clockwise and see what we can find. Oh, I didn't go into this one first. Okay, so we have some history of Eir Glanfath. Very nice. Thankfully, this is not stealing here. So we'll take this book and wait until we get to part 1 to read it. A wreath of straw woven with animal bones hangs from the shelf. Spread across a lumpy pallet of straw, the hide blankets are surprisingly soft. Not stealing. I can't take that camping supplies right now. Let's see what's going on over here. Oh, here's Arthur right here. Talk to him and see what he has to say. A lanky hunter grooms his stubble, a patched fuzz of blonde hairs, while listening attentively to a young elven woman. She whispers in his reddened ears and giggles. With his head still lowered, he flashes a wild smile in return. The hunter notices you. He clears his throat and straightens his back, adopting an air of dignity. I've been expecting you. Really? My tribesmen have told me you're here to speak the truth about Fiorm's exile. He combs his sparse stubble, darting a glance at the elven woman. Well, Arthur doesn't hide from the truth. Ask, and to answer. What happened to Fiorm? Arthur looks down and licks his lips. Fiorm, he pushes the blonde bristles away from the edges of his mouth. Every tribe knows his prowess, a hunter of great name. But this time he fell behind. We spotted the great Stelgar on Sentinel's Ridge, above the waterfall of the Northweald. It was stalking for prey. Arthur lightly shakes his head. Fiorm wanted us to split. He'd lure the beast to the river, and I'd flank it. The hunter scratches his flushed earlobe. But the beast didn't come down to the riverbank, so we tried to circle it on the ridge. I climbed faster, and there it was, ready to pounce on me. Arthur thrusts his fist forward. I pierced flesh mid-air, rolled over, and stabbed at it again and again. And it was dead. The hunter pushes his mustache back and looks up. Fiorm couldn't believe he didn't earn the kill, not even a cut. He said he'd not return with the shame of losing to a twice-split arrow. Arthur sighs. I pleaded, but he was a keeper of the stone. He'd not listen, and now he's exiled. Who knows where? Tell me about your tribe. We're young, the eldest tribe of Eir Glanfath. Arthur hesitates for a moment, scratching his beard, and then spread his long legs apart. But we're not weak. The other tribes have their history, and now we, the twice-split arrows, are making our own. Arthur puffs his chest and pounds with his fist. We're true Glanfathans, true hunters. I've proven our worth. His patches of golden stubble sparkle alongside a glowing smile. It was me, not Viorm, who killed the giant Stelgar. Okay, so we got his side of the story. See what's going on in this Warriors Hall here. What did I want to look at this? Twin Elms is still neutral. I'm honest and benevolent. Okay. So these look like they're all 3 Tusk people that are here. 3 Tusk Stelgars.
That's settled.
The table is scarred and strained from years of use. The hearth still smells of freshly cooked game. Grease spatters the blackened bricks. The crates contain the few necessities of a Glanfathan traveling party: furs and blankets, sturdy hide clothing, and gifts of carved Adra.
I can do that. That's settled.
Come to treat with the 3 Tusks, Stelgar. Though simple and unadorned, the blades are made of sharp and finely tempered steel. The Ethik Nol. This is stealing, though. Actually, we can read this right now. So let me make sure we haven't. Okay, we indeed have not read the Ethik Nol, so let's read it now. The Ethik Nol is a group both fascinating and dangerous. An ancient druidic order, its beliefs fall well outside what the average person might imagine of druids. Though details are sketchy, the Ethik Nol would seem to have originated in the White March, as the order itself consists mostly of dwarves. The traditional druidic chants of the Ethik Nol speak of the peoples as a collective whole that created a necessary balance through their strict adherence to the purity of their line. This has been interpreted by historical chroniclers to mean that there was a time when only dwarves were allowed to be Ethik Nol. Residing now in Twin Elms, records of the Ethik Nol date back to well before the settlement had arrived at its present name. And in fact, some information places them in Twin Elms even before the Glanfathans arrived. If this is truly the case, the Ethik Nol are one of the oldest druidic orders in existence. Their beliefs don't confirm what is normally viewed as a druidic viewpoint: sacrifice, blood, fire, and an intense drive for balance in all things, well beyond most druidic standards, pervade their rituals. Core to this is the dogma that if you want something from the universe, you must also sacrifice something into the universe to maintain the balance. Nothing can ever be received without something first being given. If you perform the sacrifice, your desires will always be satiated. The simplest example of the sacrificial balance, as explained to the author, went as thus. Say you are one of these Ethik Nol, and you say you want your daughter's marriage to go well. You don't want problems, so you ask of the elders what you must do. You are told what the appropriate sacrifice is, and then you perform it. In this case, it could be as simple as throwing some coins into lava, giving the metal back to the earth, sacrificing something that is important to you, right? But the requirement is always different, and you don't know what is expected of you until you're asked. The more significant the request, the more significant the demand, and most things of true value must be paid in blood. I was told of people removing fingers, toes, even whole limbs. One farmer was reputed to have sacrificed his youngest son. Another good question many people have raised is in regards to the Glanfathans. Why do they allow such a potentially violent, possibly dangerous group to live in Eir Glanfath? Why not force them out? Rumors are that the Ethik Nol are able to make are able to make from an ancient recipe a unique war paint, apparently blood-based, and they are the only people in the world who can. The Glanfathans, it is said, have come to believe this war paint provides tremendous advantage in combat, and the residence of the Ethik Nol in Twin Elms is predicated on the fair trade of this substance. So I think we found some of this war paint before. It was stealing, so I didn't pick it up. But yeah, it seems like the Ethik Nol, who are a group of monks that seem to believe that in order to accomplish anything, you must first sacrifice something, as often that sacrifice is in the form of blood. You have here people removing fingers, toes, and even whole limbs. But they are allowed to live within Twin Elms because of this war paint that they make. Interesting. Okay, we have someone named Simak up here.
Estremor?
A grizzled old elf, his hair braided and dyed, stands at one end of the hall. His arms and chest are cross-hatched with the pale seams of scars. His crooked smile looks like another scar, I guess. It's not many Estremorn who are permitted into our sacred city. Bethul must be feeling especially soft today. Adair pays no attention to the elf and instead has locked eyes with the Stelgar in front of him. He whispers to you, "Do you think he'd mind if I pet a Stelgar?" Sagani lowers her head. "Remember how well that worked out last time?" "Come to hear your future at Ter Evron." His smile widens, exposing a row of yellowed, crooked teeth. "Or to make your own at Bloodsands." I don't know what Bloodsands is. What's Bloodsands? An ancient place of sacrifice. He laces his fingers together. In a cave by the great elms themselves. Reston and his druids have been an integral part of the Glanfathan society for generations. No matter what some other tribes may say, Eir Glanfath has held its own against the Estremorn because some of us still understand the power of sacrifice. So he's talking about the Ethik Nol here. I'm glad that I just read that book. So in other words, it seems like this place, the Blood Sands, is a place where you go to sacrifice when you want something. And the three Tusk Stelgar seem to really admire these Ethik Nol druids. He gives you an appraising eye. Does the thought make you uncomfortable? It should. It is what's kept our society alive for so long. Simak crosses his arms over his scarred chest. Something else? You don't seem fond of us Estremoran. His hunched shoulders straighten. I fought in the Broken Stone War and the War of Black Trees. I saw my brethren cut down defending the places of the builders, and I shed blood alongside Galvin Regent himself. So this elf is very old if he has fought in these wars, like a couple 100 years old. So he still has memories of these wars with the Deerwoodens, which is why he's so hesitant to trust in Estremor. He coughs. Now the Estremorans seem to think they will find a cure for their empty children among our sacred sites. Or worse, that they will find sanctuary in our lands. His gaze darkens, and I've seen what happens when they set their sights on Glanfathan's soil. From what we've seen, these sacred sites might actually have a cure, Adair said. They protect those sites because someone told them to. You just wish once they'd have the courage to question it. Isn't there room for you both? He snorts. In 200 years, Defiance Bay and New Hammar have outgrown their own crooked cobblestones. They rupture and reek like bloated corpses. No, inviting them into our lands would be the end of us. In my 250 years, I've led my people through 2 wars. Our borders have remained intact, and largely through the reputation of Three Tusk Stelgar. His voice drops to a growl. I've sired a dozen children, but none have been deemed fit to take my place. I care nothing for the legacies that obsess the Estremoran lords, but it's important that my successor continue my path. Is your role hereditary? Not entirely. We believe that the souls of our ancestors come back to us, that a strong soul may bear many more, but all souls must be tested by our elders. The Rio looked first among my children for a successor, but their souls were weak. Ordinarily, they would turn to others of my tribe to clan heads and their families. Ordinarily, he levels his gaze, but we share a tradition of fostering the children of other tribes, and the Anamenfatha of Fisher Crane have trusted his youngest to my care. He grimaces. And as none of my own blood are fit to take my place, the Rial will look next to this bog child, the kin of another Anamenfatha and my foster daughter, to take my place. Bog child? His shoulders stiffen. I have nothing but respect for the fisher crane, but their ways are not ours. The Orlans of Fisher Crane have lived in the Thane Bog for a thousand years. They are cunning and furtive by nature, which serves them well when they have swamplands to hide their movements. He crosses his arms, but this will not deter the Estramoran on open ground. I think you underestimate what a few stealthy archers can do, says Sagani. He points at the warrior who was gathered near the fire. Our savagery has deterred the Estramoran from further encroachment. They still tell of our deeds in the Broken Stone War. But if a child of Fisher Crane leads our tribe, we will lose that boldness, and the Estramoran will lose their fear of us. The child will be influenced by the souls of her ancestors. In times of crisis, she will look to her kin in Thane Bog for guidance. No matter what I might try to teach her, it will not be enough. He considers you. There is a way you could help. You have the stomach for it, but I think you have the perspective to see why certain unpleasantness may be necessary. Go on. This Orlan girl has the soul of a leader. If it were passed to one of my own offspring, our tribe would remain strong. A Stelgar at Simok's side scratches his massive head on the Anamenfatha's leg. He remains steady on his feet. The Druids of Blood Sands have a way to do this, and they understand the importance of a strong line of succession for the three-tusked Stelgar. That didn't go where I expected it to. He's not one for half measures, is he? So I think he's suggesting to kill this girl who he has been given to succeed him, and put her soul into one of his own children. He gives you a key. There's a house in southeast Hearthsong next to the river. The child will be asleep, and I've arranged for her to be unattended for a time. His voice becomes a quiet rumble. Take her and bring her to keep her word on Blood Sands. She knows what must be done. When she presents you with the liquid essence, bring it back to me. What will keep a word to do with the child? His scarred face twists again. Have you seen the rituals of Blood Sands? She will sacrifice her. It is the only way to distill her essence. Sagani looks Shimok up and down. I could take him. She looks at you. Please, let me take him. The Orlan child? Go on. I don't see why you need me to do this. Because I cannot do it without attracting undue attention, he frowns. I don't relish passing my own burdens on to another, but this will incite war between our tribes if I am caught. How can you possibly expect to get away with this? Few know the girl is here, and one Orlan babe will look much the same as the next, he shrugs. But let me worry about this. Tell me about the potion that you need from Werda. Essence, bound and distilled into a liquid. It will have little immediate effect on me, but it will weave a stronger soul in my future issue. I won't do this. I do not relish the deed, but 2 centuries of leadership have taught me that all things bear a cost. He nods once. Consider it well, Estramor. I am not above rewarding those who are of service. Tell me about the three-tusked Stelgar, the boldest and fiercest of the 6 great tribes of Eir Glanfath. It was we who defended against the Estramoran who came ashore 200 years ago. He raises his chin. We have always been the border tribe, and it has always fallen to us to hold the line against outsiders and invaders. What do you do here? As Anamenfatha of the three-tusked Stelgar, I guide our tribe in all matters. He looks to the main room of the hut, where others have gathered. I am in Twin Elms to confer with some of the other Anamenfatha about Onofen, your Hollowborn. We only have such births here on occasion, but it has made us more vigilant about our neighbors. One Stelgar stretches, flexing its claws. Simok's eyes narrow. There are some of us who believe our Onofen had been a punishment for the defilement of the builders' sites. Others say it's a plague carried by the Estramoran. People make what they want it to be, and when it ends, if it ends, they'll make up reasons for that too, says Adair. Very insightful, Adair. That is not just something from Eora either. This is something we see all the time. We see people giving significance to why things happen, as if there's some kind of karmic, universal, religious, spiritual significance to things, whether things go well or things go poorly. We always try to find some reason why it happened, when oftentimes that's just not the case. Goodbye. So I still got the quest, even though I said I wouldn't do it. I wonder if there's somebody we can tell what he plans. Lyris. A young man approaches you with a swift and purposeful stride. While you've never met him before, he has the same stern, wild look as Seamok. He doesn't speak until he's right next to you. When he does, his voice is quiet. Wait. I saw you speaking with my father. What's this about? Glances back at the room with Seamok. He's asked you to sacrifice Vela, hasn't he? He grits his teeth. Maybe he's right about the three-tusked Stalgar growing weak, but if this is the price of strength, it isn't worth it. The tribes have survived this long because we've stuck together. He and I are of a mind. The tribe that turns on itself does its enemies work for them. Kind of gives you a sidelong glance. There's no sense in this. Do you have another idea? I would never hurt the child. He sighs. He did not seem like one who would, but my father will find someone who will. He doesn't give up on an idea easily, he sighs, but there may be a way to stop him. There's an herbalist among the ovates of the Golden Grove. Bleda, that's her name. I feel like DH is one of the things we learned about in the Glanfath Customs book, but I don't remember how to pronounce it. They all gather southeast of here, by the river. She could brew a potion. Seamok wouldn't know the difference until it's too late. There's the family resemblance, in other words. Trying to do things sneakily. You want me to murder your father? No, but it's better than allowing him to murder this child. Let me guess, if Seamok dies, you're next in line? It's not like that. The Rio had already determined that my soul isn't strong enough. Whoever follows my father, it won't be me. Why not just return this child to her birth parents? It's complicated. A child sent to be fostered by another tribe isn't allowed to return. Unfortunately, explaining that we're shielding her from my father would make matters much worse. For both tribes. He tugs at a thin braid. I've got to think about this. He scowls. I hope you don't have to think too hard about it. With another glance at Seamok's chamber, he backs toward the door. I'm warning you now, Estermore. Don't go anywhere near Vela. I'm my father's son in one regard, anyway. Not planning on going to Vela, but I'm also not... I don't know. This all seems deceptive and weird. I don't know if I want any hand in this at all. Once again, I forgot to unpause the recording. All I think I did was go to the home in the lower part of... Are we in Old Song? I think we're in Old Song. I'm not sure about that. But inside of a shelf here, we found Eir Glanfath Part 1, Early Contact. So I want to read that, and we actually own Part 2, so then we'll read that after we're done with this one. The history of Eir Glanfath before it was discovered by the Edirn explorers is poorly documented, and oral accounts often conflict. Some tell stories of an advanced civilization that left, taking all its knowledge with it, leaving ruins and their civilization behind. That would be the Engwithans. Others say that the Glanfathans themselves developed such power and technology that they all but destroyed themselves, and that is why they will not allow anyone into the ruins or their land. Either way, reliable information about the area of Eir Glanfath doesn't begin until Edirn explorers discovered it in 2602 AI. Take issue with that term discovered here. Obviously, it wasn't discovered because people already lived here. But also, seems like some people think that Glanfathans are actually Engwithans, but because of the power that the Engwithans strived for, they basically decimated themselves. So they had to... so they are not as numerous as they once were, and they don't have the same technology as they once did. And this way, they're guarding these ruins because they don't want people to find that out about them. And that's just a theory. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that that's what some people say. The Glanfathans were not used to encounters with outsiders before, and viewed the intrusion on their land as something of a test. The ruins that covered their land were considered sacred, and these strangers, despite warnings, plundered them, taking artifacts. Glanfathans that resisted were captured and forced into slavery, becoming property of the new colonists. Their people, heritage, and land at stake, the Glanfathans struck back, hoping to drive them out of their lands permanently. Despite their best efforts, more Aedirn invaders appeared. By 2623 AI, so 21 years later, the Aedirns had established towns, pushing the Glanfathans out of some areas and enslaving any who refused to leave. They tried to live in peace, keeping an eye on the Aedirns, and with the exception of a few isolated incidents, it seemed to work. This tentative peace came to a bloody end in 2026 AI, 2626 AI. A group of farmers, clearing a potential crop field in the middle of an area dotted with many sacred runes, knocked down one of the ancient menhirs. Start talking about the Broken Stone War. Whether this was intentional or accidental is not known, but this incident started what came to be known as the Broken Stone War. It was short, lasting less than a year, but it was bloody and brutal. Several thousand Aedirn colonists, as well as hundreds of Glanfathans, died. Though the war ended, the attacks on the Aedirns didn't stop. An Orland named Regid was chosen as Galvan of the Glanfathans. He vowed to make every outsider pay for the injustices done on his people's land. He organized the Glanfathan Fangs and orchestrated a series of attacks over the course of the next 2 years. Once again, we have this Fangs here. So Fangs seem to be people who were once loyal to Galvan Regid. It seems Regid tactics would eventually work and drive the Aedirns from Eir Glanfath, but they started fighting back. They became far more organized and their tactics less predictable. Fewer and fewer of Regid's attacks succeeded. He discovered a new grave. Hadret had been appointed, someone whose tactics and battle savvy were more evenly matched with his. Eventually, both leaders came to a stalemate, neither able to gain the upper hand on the other, and we learned at some point that these two actually gain a kind of respect for each other, even though they're enemies. As a result of the stalemate, the hostilities between the two groups dwindled, as there was never a significant result for either side. This led to treaties, developed and signed by both to eliminate the violence and tension. Regid stepped down as Galvan and returned to his life. Hadret set a decree. Looting the ruins of Eir Glanfath was an arrestable offense. As a sign of goodwill, Hadret also tried to outlaw slavery, but this act was struck down by the other earls in the Farkening of Edir. Because of this, some incidents of royal violence still cropped up. Hadret treaties resulted in 20 years of relative peace for the Glanfathans, still wary and distrustful of the Aedirns, but willing to accept their presence if they had to. So that is part 1, early contact. Need to find part 2 now. Here it is, nice. So this is after the Broken Stone War and after the uneasy truce between Hadret and Galvan Regid. In 2652, everything started to deteriorate. It was uncovered that a number of ruin sites had been looted, and all signs pointed to the Aedirns breaking the treaty. Glanfathans held off judgment for as long as they could, but when the evidence became overwhelming, they retaliated with all the strength they could muster. Regid once again took up the mantle of leadership and led his people against the Aedirns. Instead of facing Adrang Hadret again, this time Regid crossed swords with Admeth Hadret, Adrang's son. Admeth proved to be just as, if not more, capable than his father and used a tactic no Glanfathan expected. In order to clear out the battlefield and ensure there would be no place for troops to hide, Admeth set an entire forest on fire near the Ijeua River and blocked all retreating forces with his army. While some escaped the slaughter, most of the Glanfathan troops died. Regid was captured in the mayhem and transferred to New Haemar for holding. While many more battles occurred, some of which resulted in Admeth using the same tactic, the Glanfathan forces were now disorganized and had lost their resolve. They were easily routed, and by the end of the same year, the War of the Black Trees, as it is now known, was over. Now, we have read about the War of Black Trees before. In order to again repair relations between the two groups, Admeth introduced new laws restricting the taking of new slaves from Eir Glanfath. The laws also gave Glanfathans the opportunity to buy their fellows out of bondage. While not entirely happy with the prospect of having to buy their countrymen, who had already been free, the Glanfathans took this gesture of goodwill as it was and ceased their hostilities again. 7 years passed with the Dyrwood under Admeth's rule. The Glanfathans felt, for the first time, that true peace could return to their land. This peace led to what is likely the biggest treaty negotiation between Eir Glanfath and the Dyrwood in its history. Admeth set into place the 10 Years Treaties, so named because it had been 10 years since the War of the Black Trees. A timeline was set, and at the end of it all, Glanfathan slaves had to be released. The citizens of Eir Glanfath watched the Dyrwood with cautious hope. With the extended peace between the two people and these new treaties, they truly hoped conflict was a thing of the past. In 2665, Galvan an elven woman who had taken over for Regid, brought news to Admeth. Some dear wooden people were found taking artifacts from one of the tombs. Initial investigation uncovered several more that had already been plundered. As they seemed to be isolated incidents and it had been stopped early, Medra did not want a war again to start again after so long being at peace. Admeth was grateful for his courtesy and waited no time tracking down who was responsible. Medra gave Admeth use of her Brishelwyn, mind hunters, and with their help found evidence pointing directly back to the Firkening. Admeth and Medra, now jointly allied against the Adiran Firkening, used everything at their disposal to prevent the Firkening's agents from getting into the ruins. This is that Firkening across from the Eir Empire who secretly ordered Dear Woodens to continue plundering the ruins, even though it was illegal. And this is what eventually would lead to the War of Defiance, in which the Deerwood would gain its independence from the Eir Empire. In 2668 AI, when Admeth declared independence from Edir to create the Free Palatinate of the Deerwood, the Glanfathan stood behind him, offering their support and troops. While the war didn't affect the Glanfathan people directly, there were casualties. In the end, the Deerwooden people became free, and the bond between the two people was strengthened through their shared suffering. Admeth became the beloved as ruler of the Deerwood, known and respected by Deerwoodens and Glanfathans alike. And we have read a lot about Admeth Hadret and his war of defiance to gain independence from the Adiran Empire. Let's see. The Golden Grove here, I believe, is where we have to go if we want to make that potion to kill Simok. Let's talk to Bleda here.
Hail, Estremor.
The elf holds a chipped wooden pipe. The sweet smoke wafting from the bowl makes you dizzy. Welcome, Estremor. I've got herbs and potions for sale. Looking for something to ease your travels, or something to make them more interesting? When she grins, you see her teeth and gums are stained brown. Whiteleaf. Nice way to spend an afternoon, says Adir, and the following night, and most of the next day. I hear you can make certain poisons? She takes a deep draw on her pipe. Poisons? I only deal in tonics that heal and enlighten. She exhales a puff of smoke. Of course, many beneficial substances can be harmful when taken in great quantities, but that's just what Wereth's way of keeping all things in balance. Really, what kind of substances? She leans against the winding tree trunk and ticks the items off on her fingers. Oh, there's plenty. Concentrated carogolan, undistilled spider venom, rotten blood moss extract, cave coral mixed with skein bone. I need to say I need one of these things. I need a mixture of cave coral and skein bone. She stops counting and scratches her head. What would you want with something like that? My friend Stelgar is dying, and he wants to ease the creature's passing. She frowns, her teeth clamped around the pipe. Poor thing. Here, take this. She gives you a vial filled with a dark fluid. It works slowly, but this will send him back to the cycle kindly enough. Just see that it doesn't get misplaced. Half the dose would kill an Almawa. She taps the ash from her pipe in the grass. Was there anything else I could do for you? I'd like to see your stocks. So here's that war paint that the Ethik Nol created. Binding the essence of sacrificed life into a potent brew of blood and magic, war paint crafted by the Ethik Nol has empowered Glanfathan warriors to perform great feats of strength and dexterity for hundreds of years. I may have read that already, but now that we know who the Ethik Nol are, I thought it would be useful to read it again. Okay, so I would like to buy this sapphire, and probably some of these Vithrock brains as well. Those are common items to upgrade things to exceptional, which I would really like. And we have a tiny sporling as a pet, so why not buy that as well? Yeah, so trick Simok into drinking the poison. So that's what I guess all of those different poisons were just different options that we could make. Let me look at the journal here. Nope, the quests, I mean. Simok's son Lyrics confronted me. He asked me to poison Seamok instead. I can do. So I guess it's my choice what poison I want to take. I wonder if it matters, like if Seamok will recognize it if it's one.
Builder's wisdom to you.
Tamron. Though his eyes are closed and his posture still, the man before you keeps his head aimed at you as if carefully following your movements. Hail to you. May your time in the Golden Grove be enriching. If you are in need of services, he says, his eyes still closed, speak with Bleda and she will see to your concern. What can you tell me of the Golden Grove? We are naturalists, philosophers, herbalists, and teachers. The Ovates of the Golden Grove know the true wisdom comes from the study of the natural order. We endeavor to teach others to explore the world for themselves. Farewell. Golden leaves flash and shine as they fall from the trees. The bark feels warm. The roots almost seem to twine around your hand. Already read that. Yeah, it seems like there's like the root of a tree here that's growing up around this stone platform. Isolde. An elf with placid green eyes nods in greeting. Welcome to the Golden Grove, traveler.
Hail, Estremor.
Do you seek the wisdom of our herbalists, or simply to bask in Weretha's glory? Who leads your order? High Ovate Arona leads us. She sometimes journeys to Elmshore to renew her strength. However, she's there now with some of her closest followers, in fact. Arona is a mighty elm among us. She's lived for generations. There are none who understand the world as well as she, and we are fortunate to have her wisdom to answer our questions. I'd like to know more about Arona. Her eyes brighten. Why, you must meet her for yourself. She is wise and kind, and she has led our order from the beginning. Yet she walks among us and gives freely of herself. She turns her gaze to the great twisting elms. That is why so many of us cherish about her. That is what so many of us cherish about her. She is present among us in a way that the gods never are. Tell me about the Golden Grove. We are the Ovates, druids, philosophers, and students of nature. We gather here to share our knowledge and celebration. She gestures to another elven woman standing near the entrance to the grove. Many travelers come to us for poultices and remedies. Bleda understands the cures and poisons of nature like no other. What do you believe? We believe that knowledge is found in the earnest exploration of the natural world. She tilts her head. We do not, as some have said, oppose the gods. We simply believe we have found a brighter, more peaceful path than devotion. So not a religious order of druids here, a natural order of druids, in the same district as the Bloodstones, not the Bloodstones, the Ethik Nol, who are very sacrificial. Doesn't seem like these druids would have much in common with the Ethik Nol. I must go. I don't know if we can find that Alora person if we go to Elmshore. If we can, though, that's going to have to wait for next session because session 44 is now reaching the hour point, so I'm going to have to stop it here. We further explored Twin Elms today. We learned a little bit about the Ethik Nol, and we have some kind of a family spat going on here where the leader of the Three Tusks, Stelgar, wants us to kill a baby and have him drink her essence so that his next child will have the soul that this baby has. And then this person's son wants us to kill his father instead. And we do have the poison for that now, because I'm definitely not going to kill a baby. But I don't know, maybe I will end up giving the poison to Seamok. We'll have to see for later. But that's going to do it now for session 44. Thank you, as always, for joining me. Let me know any questions that you have, anything I missed, anything I forgot, any of those kinds of things. And I look forward to seeing you again in session 45. Thanks, everybody, and goodbye.